Okay, guys, good morning. Sunday, you're in South Wales. Beautiful sunny day, cold, no chemtrails. They're not trying to poison us today, then. Right, well, that last video, the end of it, what did you think? I know what one person thought. He unsubscribed. To be honest, I thought we'd lose more. Am I sorry for what I said? No, it had to be said. Could I have used different words? Most certainly. Am I going to take any of them back? Absolutely not. What you see is what you get, guys. Proactive, aggressive activist. A patriot, in other words. Someone who cares about his country and he doesn't care what he does or who he offends to get his country back for his great granddaughter, who he, for some strange reason, he has a soft spot for. Anyhow, so let's have a look at what makes an activist. Something must have motivated me in my early life to become the way I am. Yeah, a fanatic. So I thought I'd show you the men that were role models to me, if you like. Men I looked up to, whose actions I would aspire to carry out myself if needed. So let's go to the first one, is there? Here we are, Godfrey Place. Rear Admiral Basil Charles Godfrey Place. The only VC whose hands I've actually shook. A hero. When I joined the Royal Navy at 15, he was my first captain. I never got to sit down and have a drink with him. Well, I was only 15 and I wasn't an officer. Although I did have the chance to become one, but that's a different story. Anyhow, what did Godfrey Place do? Why did he motivate me? Well, his courage. He obviously believed in the war he was fighting in, but it was what he done. He damaged the Tirpitz, one of the Germans' pocket battleships. In one of these, they had two midget submarines at HMS Ganges. Well, one was a chariot, you know, the ones they ride, and you'd have to see inside it to believe just what it was like. Well, he went 1,000 miles, sunk the Tirpitz. That's put those charges that you saw on the side of that sub underneath it and blew it out, and the Tirpitz was out of action for months. Beautiful looking ship, the Tirpitz, as was the Bulwark. The Bulwark, the Rusty Bee, that was my commando carrier. Um, as, as was the Bismarck. Interesting story about the little Bismarck and the big Bismarck. I gotta tell you it one day and show you the information. He was captured, transferred to a prison ship, and that was it. So that was the first man I can say who really, really motivated me. At the same time then, I think it was the first time I read the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. It was on the walls of the gymnasium at Ganges. Huge, huge, filled up half the wall. Yeah, that affected me as well. If you can risk all your pennies at one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and never say a word without your loss. Well, that's me, guys. I'm a gambler, a risk taker. So who was the next guy who really impressed me? This guy, Hans Ulrich Rudel, German ground attack pilot during World War II, post-war neo-Nazi activist, an unrepentant Nazi. I'm not going to talk about Nazism or anything like that. I'm talking about the courage of this man. He was the most decorated German pilot of the war and the only recipient of the Knight's Cross with golden oak leaf swords and diamonds. They didn't just give them out for nothing. It says he claimed knocking out 500. He knocked out 519 tanks, maybe even more. I've looked at the historic records. And he actually sunk a battleship. Now, that's what he done. And to do that, he had to be super courageous and super daring and prepared to risk his life. Now let's go back to that image I was showing you. Because of Hans Ulrich Rudel, I decided to see as near as I could in a virtual world what it would be like to fly a Stuka. So I bought IL2, it's a flight simulator software. It's very, very popular. And I joined an online squadron. It was a German squadron, obviously. And I had the chance to be a fighter pilot or a Stuka pilot. And because I knew the history of Rudel, I wanted to know what it was like, as near as you can in a game simulator, what it was like. So I joined, and they took it really seriously, this squadron did. They really did. They spent as much time writing reports as I did flying. 9 times out of 10, I would die. It was a super. In the end, the game was so stressful that I walked away from it because I had other things to do in my life as well. It was like a full-time job to be an active member of that squadron. They took it really seriously. So I learned how to fly a Stuka, that took me weeks, even before I could just taxi around the airfield. Really, really difficult. I had all the special software, of course, Air Tracker and stuff like that. So I didn't have to use the keyboard. I could concentrate on the controls. And, on the floor of Stuka, there's a hole cut in the floor for him to look down just before the dive goes in. And I practiced and practiced and practiced. And then we went off map reading. I'd get lost quite often. And then you would attack. I practiced for hours attacking ships, tanks, super, super difficult. And then when we'd go off on a real game mission, the stress would be immense because you would be scanning the skies for the fighters, and an IL2 Stormovik would make short work of you over the Eastern Front. They were tough aircraft. And then you'd be diving down onto your target and the flak would be coming up, or rather machine gun fire and stuff like that. And it was horrendous. And I could imagine the courage it must have took for Rudel and his gunner at the back who went with him to do that. Amazing man, courageous man. So what was he again? He was bold, he was daring, he was courageous, and he would press home his attack. He wouldn't stop. Only death would stop him. He did actually survive the war and got up to all sorts of things as to be expected from a man like him. Well, who was the next guy I admired, modelled myself on, if you like? That would be David Stirling, wouldn't it? Yeah. Founded the SAS, British Army, Scottish. You've got to hand it to those Scots. They know how to fight. Well, I hope the current generation of Scots do as well, because they're going to have to. Settled in Rhodesia. Remember, This country turned its back on it. The ones who fought for us during the Second World War, we turned our back on Rhodesia. We turned our back on South Africa. And now countries that were once bread baskets of Africa need foreign aid. Failed attempt to overthrow Gaddafi. Now, guys, with regards to Gaddafi, there's not one of our videos is about Gaddafi. He was the cork in the bottle that we pulled out. And this is why we've got so much mass immigration into our country, because we murdered him in an horrific way. Go watch the video, guys, and learn the truth. Anyhow, why I also like David Sterling, he was involved in a plot to overthrow the government. My kind of man. Oh well. And finally, who's the last guy to motivate me? Ah, well, be surprised. My call sign in that IL-2 Stuka squadron was Ramseur. If you see forums and there's someone making a comment with the call sign Ramseur, that'll be me. I haven't seen another Ramseur out there on the online internet, in the online battles that go on constantly, civil war, all sorts of wars going on online, guys, you can take part in. They're still fighting the American Civil War, the War of Northern Aggression. Tell you about that in a second. Anyhow, let's get on to this gentleman who motivated me. Stephen Dodson Ramseur. That was the call sign I took in honor of this man. He was the youngest, at one point, the youngest Confederate general during the American Civil War. We'll call it that because most of you don't know about the War of Northern Aggression. He was super brave, proactive, super aggressive. He really did. He impressed Lee by his actions at Malvern Hill and Chancellorsville, where his brigade led Stonewall Jackson's flank attack, taking 50% casualties. He dramatically routed a Union brigade. I don't know how many regiments were in that brigade, but that took some doing. I think Robert E. Lee said that of him, he would, Ramseur, he would take more risks, bigger risks, and faster than any other general he knew. Well, you know what happens to men like that. Shooting stars, they burn out. Or in Dodson's chase, in poor old Dodd, his nickname was Doddy. He was killed, of course. Yeah. Fell into the hands of the enemy, mortally wounded. 2 horses shot from under him, fought like a lion. Major General Ramseur fell into the hands of the enemy, mortally wounded. Fell at his post, fighting like a lion. So there you go, guys. Those are the kind of men, my role models, who I admire, their courage. And you notice they all had several traits in common. They were brave and they were bold, and they weren't frightened to take risks. A bit like last night when I shot my mouth off and set myself an impossibly high target. if they're up there in heaven, Dottie Ramsey is going, go for it. David Sterling would say, why haven't you gone yet? Godfrey Place would be shaking his head, going, that's a Ganges boy. Oh well. So that's what motivated me to say what I said last night. I might as well tell you this now and get it out of the way. And there are people out there who can vouch for what I'm about to tell you. I was a team leader, a programming team leader in a big company, a mega company. And we were working on a huge project along with other teams. Anyhow, the rollout date was approaching and we were a day away from it. And so they organised a huge do at a luxury hotel in the middle of nowhere, rooms booked, everything. The hotel had everything. Anyhow, I was the team leader and there was a part there and I had to put it all together. So everyone had gone and I was left in the office on my own, putting it together, ready for the rollout in 2 days. They knew it would be a day for them to recover after this night out. And I stayed and I worked, and it wasn't right, guys. And I worked and I worked and I found the problem and I got it solved. And I jumped into my car. That's right, it was the Vauxhall Senator. And I drove a long way to this hotel. Fast, I always drove fast in those days. What a prick. Actually, I worked for an insurance company and lots of computer programmers get involved in accidents because they drive too fast. Strange. So I got there and they were all having a good time. I'd missed the food, obviously. And I got in, I drank some beer. Anyhow, towards the end of the night, in the library, it happened in the library, I went off on them. And in the end, it turned into fisticuffs. Yeah, real fisticuffs. Because I had to go at the people who would let the team down, I thought. And the directors were there and the team members. And it, as I said, it got nasty. But anything I do with passion. So I jumped into my car, stormed off, crashed my car, spun off the road. Sometimes I think I have a guardian angel. Fortunately, I wasn't injured, well, not much, and rang a friend who had a garage, and he came, towed the car away, and we went home. Fortunately, nobody was injured. As I said, it was very early in the morning, and nobody was about. So I walked away from that one. The next day I woke up, I thought, well, that's it, I'm sacked now. They're not going to put up with the way I spoke to them, because I put the directors, the team managers, the lot of them through it. And then finished off by punching 2 of them. John, if you're watching this, what a night. Anyhow, the next day, phone rings. Come into the office, Paul. Need to see you, need to talk to you. I thought, well, I'll go down, I've got to empty my desk at any rate. I went in, sat down, a few pleasant rest, fully expecting to be sacked. And the director said, well, Paul, he said, you obviously know what you're talking about when it comes to the work that we are doing here. And he said, I saw last night that you've got passion for what we do. Would you like to be the overall project manager for all the teams? And so I went from being a project manager of this one project and teams to overall project manager of everything. And I got my own big office and my own retinue of followers. I walked out to the team and the guys were there, seeing me put stuff in a box. And then I took it into the big office at the end of this huge department. And that's how I become to be, I won't tell you the company. I never stayed in the end. I'd be offered permanent positions almost every single place I worked. I never accepted. I'd get bored and want to move on. Sometimes wish I'd stayed in Portugal. So that's the kind of person I am. Anything I do, I'm passionate and super aggressive and super proactive. I'd like to think I was a good manager. I'd like to think I had the respect of our teams. I know that many of them would come and visit and stay at my homes. That was a long time ago. This is now. This is our battle now. Anyhow, I just wanted to tell you, this is what motivates me. Now, let's talk about activists like me. What happens to them? What can they expect? What can I expect? I'm going to show you a video now. Bear with me. I'm going to pause. Okay, guys, I'm back. I want you to watch this video. You can see it there. It's called Green Arrow, Paul Morris, BNP traitor. Well, let's just play it.
A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely, his sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. For the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in accents familiar to his victims, and he wears their face and their arguments. He appears to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the society. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to fear. The traitor is the plague.
Are you fascists about to lose? You fascists about to lose?
What do you think? That's the kind of thing they do. There's dozens of videos like that out there accusing me of much worse. Interesting thing about that video is the voice in the background. That voice was one of the Green Arrows. One of the most dangerous men I've ever met. This was towards the end, just before the split. Okay? You can read into that what you like. But the voice speaking over that video was that voice from a video I produced. He had a good speaking voice, I thought, and it matched the video I put out at the time. So what to make of it? Yeah, I can expect, Billy Bragg. I had to go at him once. And what are we to make of it? What am I to make of it? I'm used to being attacked. You better get used to it as well if you're going to be an activist. The voice, though, that leaves me one of two things. This video was removed from YouTube. I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and then it vanished. And I wondered, why did that video vanish? And because all the other videos were still there on YouTube. But I found it over here on Dailymotion. Was it moved there as a backup? Why was that one video removed? And I wondered, I really wondered. And I listened to the voice, and it left me, there could only be one of two things. Petrosal, which incidentally is something inside the ear, I think, for listening. Petrosal had stolen the audio from the original video, or that person with the voiceover was the traitor. I don't know. Either way, I do know that that person is a very dangerous person, and he should never have been permitted anywhere near the BNP or its members. Was he a traitor? I don't know. He could have been. Is he dangerous? Yes. Should I have reason to be frightened? Well, I've now got reason to be alert, that's for sure. Because if he's back in the game, it's going to get nasty. Anyhow, you're a British activist. Advance UK. And there's a game on. And I've got 9,700 subscribers to find. So, listen guys, I've been open with you. I've shown you what kind of man I am. I've opened my heart to you. You can either come along with the ride or you can walk away. It's up to you. I wouldn't have it any other way. Anyhow, you've been listening to Paul Morris, The Green Arrow. Talk to you later, guys.